There are only 7 days left to comment against the ATF's registration check rule before the period ends on December 7th. Now, if you're not convinced about why you should comment, keep watching, so I can tell you exactly how crazy it is. Hi, I'm Ben, and today on the Minuteman Moment, we're going to break down 8 reasons why this new ATF rule is totally ridiculous. Now, I know everyone thinks Lord of War is a dope movie, and Nick Cage's character is the typical fantasy gun dealer, selling belt feds and grenades, but that's just it, a fantasy. The problem, though, is that the ATF thinks that you're basically a Lord of War if you break any of the following rules according to their latest proposal. So here's the 8 reasons why ATF's new rule is ridiculous. Reason number 1. ATF says that even offering to sell a firearm is evidence that you're engaged in business. Now, say your buddy got a sweet, rare rifle, like an ACR or a SCAR. But, in the silly, goofy mood they're in, they say to you nonchalantly, "I'd sell it if I could find a replacement." According to this new rule, your hypothetical conversation is enough evidence to be considered engaged in the business of selling a firearm. Reason number 2, if you spend more than your income on firearms, that's considered dealing without a license. Now, the ATF is trying to say that if you spend more on your firearms than your gross income, that's the money you make in a year before the government taxes it away from you, then you're a dealer. But the issue with this is that there are plenty of people who don't have a taxable income, whether that's because they have an unusual income fluctuation or happen to lose their job after buying the firearm. Now, this is a terrible standard to use and could be easily exploited. Now, here's the 3rd reason. Selling a firearm within 30 days, if it's new or like new, in the original packaging. Now, this situation is familiar to anyone who owns guns. Let's say you saw all those great Black Friday deals, like on Classic Firearms or Sons of Liberty, or your other favorite firearms website. Well, let's also say that perhaps you got a little bit too jolly thinking about Christmas presents for yourself and ordered one too many. And then your family saw all your purchases and said they don't want to eat beef-flavored ramen for Christmas Eve again. So, being the responsible adult you are, you try and sell them locally, so you don't have to pay for that return shipping. But because you haven't had them for too long, they're still in the original packaging in new or like new condition. Well, that's now considered dealing without a license, because the ATF are a bunch of boring losers who have never done some post-eggnog Black Friday shopping before. But even if this scenario isn't applicable to you, it's still ridiculous to say that someone who takes care of their guns and keeps them with their original packaging is now a dealer. Reason number 4, you collect firearms of the same or similar type or kind. Now, I've talked about this part of the rule before. It's incredible how much the ATF wants to psy up the people into believing you can't collect multiple modern guns. This is an insanely subjective decision to decide who is a legitimate collector and who's a firearms dealer. If I had infinite money, I'd be stacking my safe with all the Daewoo's and FNCs I could get my hands on. But oh no, because some FUD behind the desk at the ATF thinks my collection isn't real since they're modern, I'd be getting a felony. Reason number 5. Any intent to earn a profit is considered engaged in the business. ATF thinks this means any advertising, renting space to display or sell firearms, or even keeping records of your guns and purchases means you're basically a black market dealer selling guns to the criminal underworld. But you've probably seen these guys at your local gun show, selling their private collection, maybe asking a little bit too much for that CMP grand. But Jimbo isn't trying to subvert the law, he's just liquidating. But since he's got a folding table, maybe some price tags, and a cardboard sign talking about the 1956 Grand that totally fought at the Battle of the Bulge, he's guilty of being engaged in the business and needs to spend months getting a license and sending more of his money to the government. Similar to number 5, reason number 6 is accepting electronic payments means you need a license to sell the gun. No, of course ATF, it's a great idea to have a bunch of people walking around with $1,000 in bills to private purchase a firearm, and totally doesn't make gun owners a target for robberies. In this day and age, where everything is done through Venmo, Cash App, or even with credit cards, it's crazy to say that you're doing business if you accept an electronic payment. I guess that means I'm basically a liquor store when I get Venmo'd for a 12-pack of banquets. So I'll need to request an ABC license. Or I'm a taxi now after my buddy pays for gas in my car. But don't worry, it gets more ridiculous. Reason number 7. Having a security system means that you need a license. It's so crazy. Let me read this directly from the rule so you don't think I'm making it up. Anyone who formally or informally purchases, hires, or otherwise secures business security services to protect business assets or transactions that include firearms must have the intent to predominantly earn a profit. Oh, you want to make sure no one breaks into your house with some motion sensor lights or doorbell camera? You have a safe to protect your guns while you're not home? ATF wants their pound of gold because you're acting responsibly and prepared. Feels like a bunch of chimpanzees just hitting random letters on the typewriter when they release these documents. And finally, reason number 8. Having insurance policy that covers firearms. Much in the same vein as the last reason, the ATF thinks that being a responsible gun owner means you're dealing guns illegally. Want to protect your investments? Or want to make sure that you can recoup your losses in case of a tragedy? Nah, the only reason to have an insurance policy is because you're an evil, unregistered, and unlicensed gun dealer. Now, after all 8 of these reasons, I'm sure you're just as mad as I am. Well, good news for you, because I've got a way that we can stop the ATF from implementing this rule by making your voice heard. Click the link in our description to use our model comment tool to tell the ATF just how wrong they are. And if you've already commented, a big thank you for helping support our mission to defend and restore the Second Amendment. Now be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of GOA's latest fights for your rights.